First two episodes of Tokyo Ghoul REEEEE are out, or as I would like to call it, Tokyo Ghoul. Yeah. So, where do I even begin? Okay, so episode starts out. They're doing the whole Rushima, or however you pronounce that, arc, the raid. And so we see a tiny little flash of Mutsuki, and tiny little flashes of all the different fights that are, super important and big chapters, like Juzo versus Kurina. And yeah, Kurina is just alive. They just show us that. And there. Amon's just alive. Big secret they've been keeping. Yeah, first 10 seconds, he's alive. He's just standing there. All the stuff's going up. First 30 seconds, I think, is the most rushed 30 seconds I've ever seen. I'm not even talking about the flash forward. Because, yeah, I can understand that. They've done that in anime before. Do a flash forward to at the end of the season. But 30 seconds after that is just like, cut. Here's everything. And I don't know if they're going to go back to it. But if they don't, it's just terrible. And then, of course, after all that, we get the opening. Opening was really good. I actually really enjoyed this opening. Visuals are okay. But I think this is the same band that did Unravel, and I think they did a good job with this opening. It was definitely one of the best. I might like it better than the first season of Tokyo Ghoul REEEEE opening, which I really enjoyed. So opening was good. And then they randomly switched to Kaneki interrogating Eto's manager, or whatever. So like we get all this stuff, and randomly we switch to this. And they even basically cut out one of my favorite panels of this chapter or whatever, is Kaneki flipping over the table. It was almost comedic. And then they kind of referenced it later in another chapter. It was like 140 something. And when it was in his mind, and they referenced him just flipping stuff over. But they basically, to save animation, there's so many shots in this episode to save animation, they just cut away and don't show something actually happen. It's like you see him lifting up his foot, and then it cuts to another scene of the table flying, and they don't actually show him because they don't have the budget to have him kick a table. So, yeah, so they literally just cut that out. And so Kaneki isn't even with Eto, which in the manga he's with Eto because they suspect her of being a ghoul and all that, but they're still doing an investigation. And that's when she says, "I'm a ghoul," in the whole press conference, and Kaneki is just looking at her, glaring. But in this, Kaneki isn't even with her. And then he just teleports right beside her. I don't know how he got in there, but he's walking in the middle of the street all shocked, and then he literally teleports right next to her. I'm like, okay. And one of the few scenes I actually liked was Eto's backstory. It seems like they're going 200 miles an hour. Then they slow down for just a second, show her backstory, and it was good. Nothing really wrong with it. Besides, again, about every scene is just the animation's terrible. But, and then Eto, her hair is just changed, which in the manga they showed that she cut her hair, and what I liked about it is she was like cutting her hair and kind of like flirting with Kaneki, and she's like, "Oh, you like my new hairstyle," and all that, and she's very flirtatious and just kind of smug, and just the tiny little details that kind of make you like her and like her character and just how she is as a character. They just cut all of it out of the anime, just all details. Anything interesting is not in it. Fights, they'll do half of it, they'll do half a fight, rush that fight. So I don't really know what they're trying to do, what the point of the anime is, because the animation's bad. So the manga looks better. You obviously don't watch it for the story, because it cut out the entire story. You don't watch it for the fights, which is kind of what season 1 was about, is going to the fights and then having good animation on the fights. But the fights look bad. So I don't even know what the reason of watching this anime would be. There's literally no reason to watch it. Washu Clan, they just throw that name out. If I remember in Tokyo Ghoul REEEEE Season 1, they didn't explain who the Washus were at all. They just said, "Oh, this is Matsuri Washu," and we don't know who the Washus are. We know the dude is the head of the Washus, and he's in charge of the CCG, but we don't know anything about them. And here they just start throwing their name out like we should know who they are. And in the manga, if they explain it completely who they are, and they've been doing hunting ghouls for like hundreds of years, and in the anime they never even mentioned that. REEEEE scene I liked when they showed her backstory. So basically they have a few backstory scenes in these 2 episodes, and I like whenever they have these backstory scenes and they're actually good, and the only time they slow down and actually do some characterization. So I like the REEEEE scene. And Furuta talking to Eto, they don't even let us know he's Sota the clown. You know, the giant reveal, like in the manga, everyone freaking out of, oh, he was Sota, he's the one that dropped the beams on REEEEE and Kaneki, all that. Yeah, they don't even care to mention that, so we don't know who Furuta is. He's just this dude that likes trolling people and running around, so Furuta's just kind of there. It doesn't explain anything. Kaneki goes in to get Hinami, and he looks just happy, like he's smiling. He just looks happy. In the manga panel, he's smiling and trying to look happy, but you can just see the pain in his face. You can see so much emotion in the panel, and in the anime, he's just smiling because they have the most bare bones budget possible. So all the tiny little characterizations just cut out. They don't matter. They also cut out one of my favorite panels, which I was waiting to be animated just because, or hear the sound effects, because I just love the panel of him cracking his knuckles, and it was like the knuckles cracked in the darkness, or however it was worded. Love that panel. Not even in it, because, you know, they gotta go 200 miles an hour, get through everything as fast as possible. And that's another thing, is just like how not showing the pain on his face, like in season 1, when he was Heisei, having him be where they took the scene out where his hand was on his chin, and I remember everyone mentioned that, and then everyone's like, why is that a big deal? Well, it's supposed to show that he wasn't happy being Heisei. He's saying, I'm happy with where I am, but he wasn't, and there was even a scene of him breaking down and crying, and none of that was in the anime. It was just, oh, he's super happy, he's Heisei, yeah, so they just cut all that out, so they're doing even worse this season than the last season. And I did like the whole stuff with Arata, kind of showing his backstory. I think they cut it a little short, but again, one of the few good parts of the episode is them showing a backstory of a character. And to boot, in that scene, there was like no good animation. It was really just still shots. So again, saving budget for I don't know what. You would think a cool fight scene, but no, they're saving budget for nothing. They're saving it for Black Clover. That's what they're saving it. Have 80 episodes of Black Clover, but do 120 chapters of Tokyo Ghoul in 12 episodes, because, you know, good idea. Yeah, and then Furuta just does not come across as a good character and, like, as insidious and troll as he did in the manga. Like, I love him in the manga, one of my favorite characters. In the anime, he's annoying. I don't think it's the voice actor's fault, it's just he's annoying, and there's nothing good about him. And he just suddenly takes out Eto, no problem, which he kind of did in the manga. But in the anime, it seems so forced and bad. And then they skipped another one of my favorite panels. Like, one of my favorite panels of the entire manga is calling back to this exact same chapter number in part 1 of Tokyo Ghoul, of Kaneki leaving Toka and saying, I'll see you later. And then Toka repeats this to him, exact same chapter number in the sequel series REEEEE. And she says, I'll see you later. And he just turns to her and says, you're a cruel one, Toka. And it just has this pained look. And there's a tear in his face. And it's one of my favorite panels of the entire series. There's just so much pain in his face. And it's because he's going to die. And that's what he wants to do. And Toka is just trying to pull him back, trying to keep him alive. And one of my favorite panels. But of course, just skip it. Go right to the fight scene. That looks bad. Kakuja is there for like 3 seconds. He just screams. He has the Kakuja. Gets wrecked within probably 3 frames, so you don't get to see the Kakuja like at all. And also, because he ate Eto when he first became the Black Reaper, his Kakuja was supposed to imitate hers. Like, that's how the little tendril started talking to him and everything. And in the manga panel, you can see it started talking just like how Eto's did. Like, it was showing how he was going crazy. In anime, they don't show that. No talking or anything. It's just he gets a random power up like a Super Saiyan. And then we get a Hide scene, which I liked. But again, in the manga, that panel almost made me cry of just seeing Kaneki saying how alone he is without Hide. In anime, I honestly didn't care that much. Maybe it was because of my negative view of the entire 2 episodes, but I just didn't feel anything when watching this scene. And then Kaneki's hair changes color, after 2.5 episodes of like the finale of season 1, and then like the first episode. So yeah, after 2.5 episodes, his hair changes color, because we just didn't have that like 3 episodes ago. They spent a lot more time in between, at least in the other anime, between like season 1, season 2. Yeah, they waited 2 episodes before changing his hair. So now everyone is just going to not take the show seriously because it's literally like Dragon Ball. He's changing his hair color every 3 episodes. So no one's going to take it seriously anymore, because there's a whole bunch of symbolism and stuff behind that, which I can get into in a different video. But yeah, it's like, his hair changed color, so he's now like Super Saiyan level 3. Yeah, so it was dumb. Basically at this point, if anyone's watching the anime, I just feel sorry for them if they're not a manga reader, because I don't think they're gonna have any idea what's going on. Period is literally just committing seppuku with this series. I think they personally just hate Tokyo Ghoul, is my opinion, because they seem to try to butcher it and torture it as much as they possibly can. I just don't understand Studio Period, but they'll give Black Clover 75 episodes with good animation, even throw in some filler episodes, give them as much time as they want. And Tokyo Ghoul is I remember like the number 3 or close on selling wise of manga. It was above Black Clover by quite a bit. So I do not understand why they decide on butchering the series to such a degree, but at this point I'm just kind of done. As I did on my anime list, I literally give it like a 1 out of 10. I think it's one of the worst adaptations, the most rushed, butchered adaptations of any manga or anything I've ever read. It's just terrible. I'm just done. It's like I can't take it Studio Period anymore.